Hello, YouTubers and NFL fans everywhere. This is Matt, the NFL Fanatic, giving you my Week 13 2021 NFL predictions. Well, I hope everybody in the U.S. that celebrated Thanksgiving had a happy, hearty, healthy, and enjoyable Thanksgiving weekend. I'm sure I did, and I spent great time with my family, catching up, eating a good meal, and watching two pretty good overall football games. The Bills and Saints was a dud, but after everybody's seen the Saints, that's not that big of a surprise. But I am happy to be back for a brand new week. We only have 2 more weeks of the byes left, and then we get 4 weeks, 64 more games of 16-game weeks, so that'll be exciting. And overall for this week, I was the same. It's a rarity that both my against the spread and straight up records are the same, but that's how the case it ended up this week. So far this week, against the spread and straight up, I am 8 and 6 respectively for both records. That equals up to 57.1%. So definitely my best against the spread week in a very long time. Probably the best, second best overall for the whole year. And straight up being 8 and 6, I'm disappointed that I even haven't been able to reach that 10-game threshold of wins over the past several weeks. But I will take another winning week at the very least. And now overall for the year against the spread, through 179 games, I am 77, 99, and 3. Against the spread and straight up, I am now 109, 69, and 1. So, and just for a reminder for everybody tonight, I am taking the Washington football team -1 in the Washington football team straight up in my against the spread pick for Monday Night Football tonight. So that equals up to 43.9% against the spread and straight up. That equals 61.2. So definitely down years. It was nice to get my against the spread percentage up a little bit. Still, 50% is going to be a very long shot with the amount of time left and how my picks have been going. And straight up, definitely the 65 is now the max goal. I don't think I'm going to get to that 66, 67% of, incremental movement up every week. But I'll take 2 winning weeks, and I'll take that I'm, moving in the right direction going into this coming week. So for the byes this week, the Carolina Panthers, the Cleveland Browns, Green Bay Packers, and Tennessee Titans are all on bye this week. So you have Cam Newton, Christian McCaffrey, Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore, the Panthers defense, Baker Mayfield, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, Jarvis Landry, the Browns defense, Chase McLaughlin, the kicker, Zane Gonzalez, Aaron Rodgers, Devontae, Aaron Jones, Packers defense, Mason Crosby, A.J. Brown, Julio Jones, Derrick Henry. I know they were all out injured anyway, but if you have any of the Titans players or any of those players on your fantasy teams, bench them because they will not be playing this weekend. But it was a crazy week in the NFL. It was weird how my against the spread and straight up records worked. Basically, every against the spread pick that was correlated correctly matched up with my straight up picks. The only one I got right against the spread that I did not get straight up was I did get the Raiders +7. They won outright over the Cowboys. I do want to yell very quickly at number 90 of the Houston Texans, Ross Blaylock. Hey, buddy, you cost everybody that picked the Texans the game. And, I know this was a minor point, but essentially he committed an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty by he springboarded off, or he leveraged, that's what it was. He leveraged off one of the Jets defenders to try to block a field goal, and it gave the Jets a first down, which they cashed in for a touchdown to go up 18-14. They did not take an opportunity to take the lead back. Matt Amendola, he missed a 42-yard field goal to give the Texans a shot. Then they couldn't capitalize on it. The Jets get a field goal, and on 4th and 2, Tyrod tries to throw the ball to Nico Collins, and it fails miserably. So I'm putting Ross Blaylock. You are the dud of the week, you moron. You cost us the game for anybody to pick the Texans. So, David Culley, you should be ashamed of yourself that you let that man still be on your team. But I digress. I might be a little irritated off just because that play, I believe, cost everybody the game. But yeah, that crazy finish. The Bucs-Colts game was fantastic. Congratulations to Leonard Fournette for getting a new career high in touchdowns with 4 touchdowns. Rob Gronkowski having 7 receptions for 123 yards. Looking like the old Gronk, and he should be getting AB back for next week's game against Atlanta, which will be significant as well. So their entire offensive weapons will be back. Losing Jamel Dean will hurt them, and he's been up and down throughout the lineup, but hopefully they get Carlton Davis and Richard Sherman back in the next few weeks. They had Sean Murphy-Bunting back, who made some nice plays. But also, I just thought the story was the Colts, at the end, through the second half, gave up 17 unanswered points. Carson Wentz committed 3 turnovers. You could argue that the last one was kind of a BS, Hail Mary throw, but whatever. That was unfortunate, and kudos to Bucks. Kudos to the Bucks for getting a massive road win, and for the Titans who got blown out by the Pats, which nobody's surprised by that with how the Titans played. And this is the one thing I wanted to say: like Mike Vrabel deserves very little blame, I believe, for this situation. It just sucks the injury bug just ripped through the entire Titans organization, offensively, defensively, all the way around. Because that's how you're supposed to lose when you have injured players. When you have injured players, you're supposed to get blown out. Especially with a team with the Patriots where Mac Jones, he threw for 320 yards, 2 touchdowns. He has the single highest completion percentage in New England Patriots history through a single season at 70.8%. That's how you're supposed to look. You're supposed to look defeated, embarrassed, and basically the turning point of the game was J.C. Jackson's interception on the goal line on 4th and goal. And you know what? I don't really put any blame for Mike Vrabel. It's tough for him. Could they beat Jacksonville in 2 weeks? Sure, if Julio comes back and they should win. But who knows? But that's how you're supposed to look in a bad game. You're not supposed to be these Kyle Shanahan, Kevin Stefanski types to where, you make a competitive game. It's moral victories. There's one thing I don't like. It's moral victories. I'm not, you either win or you lose. It's concrete. It's not moral or figurative. So, that's how I get frustrated. But also, quick shout out to Kyle Shanahan. 3 straight wins after starting out 3-5. Now he's 6-5, and he's now the 6th seed in the playoffs. So I think Kyle Shanahan, he's kept back up afloat now for his job. And I think he's got a good chance to retain his job because I believe the Niners are in a good spot to make the playoffs. Though, best of wishes to Dalvin Cook. He suffered a torn labrum. And from what I just read, he is supposed to be out for at least the next 2 games for Pittsburgh. And they were hoping that they can get him back for the Monday Night Football game against the Chicago Bears on December 20th. But we shall see. But I think Alexander Madison, will be okay. They're playing the Lions and Steelers next week. The Steelers defense isn't, a great joke to run about, and it is Kirk Cousins in prime time, but they should be fine with the Lions this week. 1 o'clock, Kirk Cousins, Hall of Famer. So, and I'll get into the rest of the games as I go through my picks, but that was just my quick thoughts about some key things I wanted to talk about before I get into my picks. So, this Thursday, when the 7-4 Dallas Cowboys travel to New Orleans to take on the 5-6 New Orleans Saints, the Dallas Cowboys are 6-point favorites in this game. Give me the Dallas Cowboys here -6. And the Dallas Cowboys straight up. Then on Sunday, when the 8-3 Tampa Bay Buccaneers travel to Atlanta to take on the 5-6 Atlanta Falcons, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are 10-point favorites in this game. Give me the Tampa Bay Buccaneers here -10. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers here straight up. Then the next game, when the 9-2 Arizona Cardinals travel to Chicago to take on the 4-7 Chicago Bears, the Arizona Cardinals are 7-point favorites in this game. Give me the Arizona Cardinals here -7 and the Arizona Cardinals straight up. Then the next game, when the 6-5 Los Angeles Chargers travel to Cincinnati to take on the 7-4 Cincinnati Bengals. The Cincinnati Bengals are 2.5-point favorites in this game. Give me the Cincinnati Bengals here -2.5 and the Cincinnati Bengals straight up. Then the next game, when the 5-6 Minnesota Vikings travel to Detroit to take on the 0-10-1 Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions are 7-point underdogs in this game. Give me the Detroit Lions here +7, but I'm going to take the Minnesota Vikings straight up. No, I'm not going to go on that limb. Even though Dan Campbell, again, second most one-score games in the NFL behind the Vikings in terms of how close they are. But I'm still going to take the Vikings to win. Then the next game, when the 4-7 New York Giants travel to Miami to take on the 5-7 Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins are 2.5-point favorites in this game, giving the Miami Dolphins here -2.5, and the Miami Dolphins straight up. Then the next game, when the 5-7 Philadelphia Eagles travel to New York to take on the 3-8 New York Jets. The Philadelphia Eagles are 7-point favorites in this game, giving the Philadelphia Eagles here -7, and the Philadelphia Eagles straight up. Then the next game, when the 6-6 Indianapolis Colts travel to Houston to take on the 2-9 Houston Texans. The Indianapolis Colts are 7.5-point favorites in this game. Give me the Indianapolis Colts here -7.5 and the Indianapolis Colts straight up. Then the next game, when the 5-6 or 4-7 Washington football team travel to Las Vegas to take on the 6-5 Las Vegas Raiders. The Las Vegas Raiders are 2.5-point favorites in this game. Give me the Las Vegas Raiders here -2.5 and the Las Vegas Raiders straight up. Then the next game, when the 2-9 Jacksonville Jaguars travel to Los Angeles to take on the 7-4 Los Angeles Rams. The Los Angeles Rams are 13.5-point favorites in this game. Give me the Los Angeles Rams here to win straight up. but I'm going to take the Jacksonville Jaguars plus 13.5. Then the next game, when the 8-3 Baltimore Ravens travel to Pittsburgh to take on the 5-5-1 Pittsburgh Steelers, the Baltimore Ravens are 3-point favorites in this game. I am going to hedge my bet here. I know it sounds nuts because you would think that the Ravens, after getting another close win with Lamar's 4 turnovers in Pittsburgh, how bad they looked against the Bengals, you'd probably take Baltimore -3. Always these games come down to an ending field goal, or it's going to come down to a fluky way. And if both quarterbacks play like it did, it's going to be a low scoring, might be a safety, just it's going to be a weird, wonky type of game. So I'm going to hedge my bet here with this one. It's Ravens Steelers. It worked out last year or a couple years ago, Mason Rudolph. So that's why I'm going to take the Baltimore Ravens here straight up, but the Pittsburgh Steelers +3. Then the next game, when the 6-5 San Francisco 49ers travel to Seattle, take on the 3-8 or 4-8 or 3-8 or 4-7 Seattle Seahawks. The San Francisco 49ers are 2.5-point favorites in this game, giving the San Francisco 49ers here -2.5 and the San Francisco 49ers straight up. And then in the Sunday night game, they got flexed when the 6-5 Denver Broncos travel to Kansas City to take on the 7-4 Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs are 9.5-point favorites in this game. Give me the Kansas City Chiefs here to win straight up, but I'm going to take the Denver Broncos +9.5. And finally, in the Monday night game, when the 8-4 New England Patriots travel to Buffalo to take on the 7-4 Buffalo Bills, the New England Patriots are 3-point underdogs in this game. In my clear outright upset of the weekend, if you could argue, if you call it an upset, I'm going to take the New England Patriots here +3 and the New England Patriots straight up. All right, so there are my quick picks, and now it's time for me to give my thoughts on each game. The Dallas Cowboys over the New Orleans Saints. I am taking the Dallas Cowboys here to win this football game based on the fact that, look, last week they missed Amari Cooper. They missed CeeDee Lamb. Amari Cooper, he is back in the facility today. He should be cleared through the protocol, though I do understand from what I've read today that the right tackle, Terrence Steele, and head coach Mike McCarthy and a couple other coaches have tested positive with COVID-19. So at least Terrence Steele has already been ruled out, and Mike McCarthy will not coach this Thursday in New Orleans against them. So first of all, to every Cowboys staff member and player on there, my best wishes and safe prayers to a quick and full recovery from COVID. So that's a big impact. And even though you could argue, and I'm saying this in a purely professional way, I think you could argue maybe Rod Smith, who will likely be the main guy controlling and leading the team through Thursday's game, he might do a better job than Mike McCarthy, because Mike McCarthy it seems like this year has just kind of been there. There's been a lot of weird decisions, bumbling plays, awkward decisions. Honestly, the Cowboys lost that game on Thanksgiving based off of the Anthony Brown 4 PI calls that essentially changed the game. And Zeke did not really run that well. He only ran for 25 yards. The Raiders got 300 yards from Derek Carr. Josh Jacobs had an okay game. Actually, Derek Carr only, I believe, ran for 2 fewer yards than Zeke did, and he only ran it on 3 different carries. But just looking at the Cowboys, they should be getting DeMarcus Lawrence back this week, which would be huge. I think they said Randy Gregory should be back for the game against Washington next week. But I just look at the Cowboys and go, they're a much more complete team. If you get CeeDee and Amari through the concussion protocol, I think with Dak, even with Mike McCarthy not there, they have just a better overall and fundamental team. And I've watched the Saints with Trevor Siemian, and he's not very good. It actually is kind of surprising that you look all the way back to, 4 weeks ago. How did the Bucs, when Jameis Winston went out, how did they lose to Trevor Siemian, the scrub? Like, how were they able to run? I know basically Brady turned it over 2 more times. They got a pick 6 to ice the game. But, good gosh, after that, he hasn't been able to win a game. He's looked absolutely clueless, mindless, hapless. I know Kamara and Ingram, that would have been a huge help to the running game. And Kamara is just a great offensive weapon. And they should hopefully be able to get him back and maybe Mark Ingram back. So that could make the game closer. But I just feel like if they don't have Taysom Hill in, and I have to just quickly say, Sean Payton gave a line of bullcrap about, Taysom Hill practicing the whole week, and then he's sitting there in his uniform, just standing there, and he's not even in the game as he watches Trevor Siemian flounder his season and hopefully his job down the toilet, and then he goes after that at the end of the game and he says, well, Taysom had a foot injury. then why did you list him as a full participant in practice the whole week? What, did you want the Bills to be scared of Taysom Hill playing instead of telling the truth and just giving, spewing out a bunch of bull? So, and that's what I'm saying, is that, like, if Taysom Hill plays, that could be a whole different factor, but I'm not expecting him to, and I'm expecting Simeon to, get back in there. And I just feel like with Amari and CeeDee hopefully back for the Cowboys, even without Mike McCarthy or some of the other staff, I feel like the Cowboys, they understand kind of the moment they're in. They're in that second tier of teams behind the Packers, Cardinals, and Bucks in that top order. Not in that particular order, but just those top three. They're in that second tier with the Rams and maybe the Niners in that way. They're in that, they're in that grouping. And if they want to, continue to hold on to a spot, even if they, can't win the division, beating the Saints this shorthanded with this lack of talent and just this frustration should be able to guide the Cowboys to a victory. And Ezekiel Elliott might not even play. They're arguing about resting him due to a knee injury he suffered a couple weeks ago. So, but even with all that said, I think Tony Pollard could do well enough. I think the offensive line, even without their right tackle, I think they'll be okay. I think the Cowboys just overall as a fundamental team have just much more talent and much more urgency compared to the Saints, who have just kind of known ever since Jameis went down that they were just kind of hanging on by a thread for their playoff spot. So, should be a great game. New Orleans has always been a weird spot. I remember New Orleans back in 2013 faced Dallas, and they converted an NFL record amount of, a ridiculous amount of first downs. So, and Dallas has always kind of had an awkward history. But I remember also New Orleans was the best team in the league a few years ago. They go into Dallas, and New Orleans wins, I believe, 13-10 in that weird slugging defensive game where Drew Brees was in the MVP position. And then after that game, he basically lost the MVP after losing to Dallas. So, these two teams have had wild and weird games. But I think Dallas is just overall fundamentally better. They're going to be healthier, more motivated, and have more talent than I think the Saints will have on Thursday. So that's why I like the Dallas Cowboys here, -6, and Dallas Cowboys straight up. The next game, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers over the Atlanta Falcons. This is one to where, look, the Atlanta Falcons played okay, but they were playing Jacksonville. Cordero Patterson had another 100-yard day. He was impressive. He was solid. He was consistent. He's probably been the best offensive weapon the Falcons have had all year. And it's actually kind of amazing. I have to give Arthur Smith his credit. He's turned Cordero Patterson into a very good Deebo Samuel type of running back weapon. The Falcons defense got a good amount of pressure on Trevor Lawrence. He had that horrific red zone turnover. Though by the end of the game, it was getting dicey. It was getting dicey to where, they cut it within 7, and you thought maybe if the Jags had one more shot, they would get it, but they fell on a 4th down. And the Falcons ended up, winning another, close game. And by no means, they're not out of the playoff contention at all. Being at 5-6, they are right with the Vikings. Actually, right now, I think they're the 8th seed. So they are right there with the Vikings in record. I think the Vikings have a little bit of tiebreaker because I think they beat the Panthers and the Panthers beat them. So that's the difference there. But the Atlanta Falcons are here, but also it's the Bucs. Like, getting Antonio Brown back will be big, and just watching that Atlanta offense, I think the Bucs secondary can handle Russell Gage. They can handle Zacchaeus. There's no Calvin Ridley. Kyle Pitts, they'll double team him, and he had a huge catch on the last drive of the game yesterday against the Jags, but against Tampa the first time, he really didn't make them. He kind of had a decent scoring game. I remember earlier in the year, week 2, that game was fairly close going into the early 4th quarter, and then Matt Ryan threw the back-to-back pick sixes to Mike Edwards, which basically changed the game. So I don't think Matt Ryan is going to play that bad again. He could, because remember, just before this game, they got blanked by the Patriots, and they only put up 3 points against the Cowboys. So definitely, I would say that the Bucs, with their confidence, with their motivation, with Vita Vea now without one of his teeth, which is a funny image. I do think the Bucs, they feel confident and they feel better about where their positioning is, and basically they can eliminate the Falcons from any kind of threat by beating them and sweeping them next Sunday. And I just feel like, again, Brady's going to have, for the first time in a while, all his receiving weapons back. That Falcons defense has been atrocious through most of the year, and I think Brady, stays upright, he stays consistent. Leonard Fournette had his best game as a, pro in terms of total touchdowns. And I think the Bucs are just clearly a better team. Could Atlanta put up a fight? It's a division game. I remember last year the Falcons blew a 10-point lead in the 4th quarter. That's what Atlanta does. Shout out to Christopher Carter, one of the NFL YouTube prognosticators. So that's tough. But I think the Bucs here, I'm going to take them with the 10 points, and that they're at They're feeling confident. They just got a huge road win, playing a division rival that they know they have more talent than, more consistent than a very weak defense. And I just feel like Brady's going to, make much more bigger plays compared to Matt Ryan and the Falcons with the limited weapons they have offensively. And the banged up and the inadequate defensive pieces besides Fowler and Deion Jones. And Terrell's had an okay year, I guess, but I digress. Stats like Tampa Bay here, -10, and Tampa Bay straight up. The next game, the Arizona Cardinals over the Chicago Bears. I'm taking the Arizona Cardinals here because I just feel like Arizona, they're coming off a bye. They should get Kyler Murray. They should get DeAndre Hopkins back. That's going to give them their entire offense. Chase Edmonds may be able to come back as well. Or, wait, he was out the San Francisco game, so they played Carolina, Seattle. All right, so Chase Edmonds is out at least one more week before he can come back. But they have James Conner, who, has been one of the top 5 rushers in terms of total touchdowns. He's had a sensational year. And the Bears, let's just be honest, Andy Dalton played an okay game, but they don't have Khalil Mack. Eddie Jackson's dealing with an injury that he might be there, he might not. Akeem Hicks is banged up. Allen Robinson dealing with a hamstring injury. Justin Fields dealing with a rib injury. And I just feel like even if they said, Kyler, we still are worried about your ankle, or we could just basically sit you for another week until the Rams game, I still think the Cardinals just are overall clearly the better football team. I think that secondary, they don't have Allen Robinson to deal with. I don't think Darnell Mooney, who was the best receiver on the Bears on Thanksgiving, is going to have a 123-yard day. I don't think he's going to be able to run past, Byron Murphy and Budda Baker in the secondary. And I just think the Cardinals are they're rested, they're motivated. They've been the best team in the league pretty much the whole year. Kyler has had 4 weeks to recover from a low ankle sprain. He was almost at the top condition before they had the bye week. I think he gets cleared to play, and I just think the Cardinals just roll over the Bears. Could the Bears put up a fight? Sure, but this isn't Tyler Huntley they're playing over a couple weeks ago, or Jared Goff, who didn't have that bad of a game. He had 2 touchdowns, the one fumble. But I just look at the Cardinals and go, they're just going to be rested, they're going to be motivated, they just have much more all-around better depth and talent than the Bears have. The Bears have lost some heartbreakers already at home this year. They lost to the Niners at home. They lost to the Packers at home. They lost to the Ravens at home. There's other game I'm missing. So they're not really a good home team, and I just think the Cardinals, they understand the pressure, the relaxation of the division, but the pressure of the conference and maintaining a number 1 seed. I think the Cardinals easily roll through the Bears through Soldier Field to get to 10-2 in a pretty decisive game, just because I feel like the Cardinals just rested, motivated, better coached, better schemed, have more talent across the board, and Kyler and DeAndre's return should be a huge plus for a win for the Cardinals. Sounds like the Arizona Cardinals here -7, and the Arizona Cardinals straight up. The next game, the Cincinnati Bengals over the Los Angeles Chargers. I am taking the Cincinnati Bengals here to win this football game based on the fact that I saw the Chargers last night or yesterday afternoon, and I'm officially here to say the Los Angeles Chargers are pretenders. They're not legitimate contenders. You can't play against a Denver Bronco team that, has been up and down. They don't have one of their center. They don't have Bowles. Another one of their linemen, Dalton Risner, I believe, didn't play for the game. Teddy Bridgewater clearly outplayed Justin Herbert. He had 1 big rushing touchdown. And then the 1-yard touchdown to the tight end, Ebson Samuel, or E. Samuel. Or Saubert. That was his name. But the one Broncos tight end. Patrick Surtain had a phenomenal game where he had 2 interceptions, including a 70-yard pick six, which iced the game. And I just look at the Chargers and go, nothing they do, if Herbert's playing well, is really spectacular. And just watching how inept that offense was, that Bengals defense did a sensational job on Ben Roethlisberger. First time since the mid-'80s, the Pittsburgh Steelers have lost 3 straight games to the Cincinnati Bengals. Joe Mixon had another, impressive day. He had over 100, yards rushing again. By the end of the first quarter, he already had 49 yards, so you knew that they could easily move the ball with their offensive line and move, running the football. And there's just something about this game that, like, I thought the Chargers would have won or would have, even beat Denver in a typical Charger way, close ending finish. I probably would have taken the Chargers, but after watching what happened, I'm going, the Bengals are hotter, they have more talent, they have more depth at wide receiver, and I just feel like, what system do I trust more? Do I trust the Bengals system for what I've seen throughout the year, or the Chargers? The Bengals have had some, nice dominating wins. They've had, 2 big blowout wins over 2 division rivals. But the Chargers, you really haven't seen that. The Chargers are one of those teams that, again, they're very much like the Ravens or the Vikings in that way. Where, like, they never can play a good game if they're winning that's going to be comfortable and dominating. They never can play that. They can get dominated. Just watch the Broncos game and the Ravens game. They can get dominated and just lay over and roll over to the next game. But I have not been able to see the Chargers in a win put up a dominating and impressive performance. Maybe the Raiders game in Week 4 in their second home game, but that's it. But that was kind of awkward too because that was a one-score game entering, the Derek Carr turnover on downs. So, do I think this game is going to be fun? I think it's actually probably a better overall game than the Broncos-Chiefs. So I would have flexed that out instead of the Seahawks-Niners for Chargers-Bengals instead of Broncos-Chiefs. But I understand the division rivalry, and Denver is 6-5, and they're coming off a more impressive streak compared to the Cincinnati and the Chargers. And also at the end of the day, the Bengals are at home. The Chargers and Bengals have had a great history together. The 81 AFC Championship game, the playoff game in 2013. And usually, the Chargers typically lose in the stadium. And I just feel like, again, like, you're going to give me Zach Taylor with the offense and kind of build consistent defense against the first year of coach in Staley, who I think has done a good job, not phenomenal, but good enough to keep the Chargers, respectable in a much higher light. I think that the Bengals' talent outdoes the coaching of Brandon Staley. So, should be a great game. I'm excited, but I'm going to take the Bengals. They're at home. More well-rounded team. Have confidence in how to, end games. And I have confidence in the special teams kicking. Blair Walsh, 4 or 5 50-plus yard field goals. I think only, Evan McPherson with the 4 or 5 50-plus yard field goals. This season, only Blair Walsh in a rookie season has kicked more 50-plus yard field goals. So, and with 2.5, that could win the game if it comes down to McPherson field goal. So that's all, like the Cincinnati Bengals here, minus 2.5, and Cincinnati Bengals straight up. The next game, the Minnesota Vikings over the Detroit Lions. This is one to where the Lions, they're the worst team in the league. And, look, I commend Dan Campbell. I think Dan Campbell's a great dude. But you can't call back-to-back timeouts on a field goal, which basically gave them a first down to drain out the rest of the clock. Jared Goff played okay, but he's nothing special. There's nothing really on the lines if you look around and say, oh, this is a phenomenal asset. You could look at maybe, Ragnarok, Decker, and Romeo Okura as the only 3 legitimate, acquisitions that have, real promise. Because Penny Sewell's been a failure. They cut Tyrell Williams. They don't really have any other receiver that, Khalif Raymond maybe. TJ Hawkinson, who's kind of been in a tight end purgatory ever since he's entered the Lions. But I'm going to take the Lions here plus 7 because I just feel like with the Vikings not having Dalvin Cook, and I like Alexander Mattison. Alexander Mattison usually averages around 4 to 5 yards a carry. So he definitely can do the job against this winless team. I could see the Vikings frustrated, disappointed in another one-score game. Kirk Cousins, only third interception this year to Al-Ashir from the Niners late in the game. And also he made that horrific blunder when he lined up under the guard to take the 4th down snap. And that might have cost them momentum of the flow of the game. And it also cost them a timeout, which they could have used later in the last ending drive that they wouldn't had to worry about trying to get into the end zone. So that's why I'm going to take the Lions plus 7 because I feel like, look, earlier in week 3, it was week 5, it was a field goal from Greg Joseph who couldn't hit a 49-yarder, but he could hit a 52-yarder to beat the Lions. So the Lions know how to play this Vikings team at a good level. But until the Lions win a football game, you really can't convince me to pick them until it happens. So that's why I'm going to go with the Vikings. I think better overall team. The loss of Cook will not really impact them this weekend, but next Thursday against Pittsburgh, that might definitely happen. And I just have confidence in the Vikings that 1 o'clock Kirk Cousins will show with all his decent weapons out there. But the Lions, they played them tough on the road. The Lions, have seen, DeAndre Swift's injury to his shoulder. That's going to be a big story throughout the week. If he can't go, Jamal Williams will take his place. So I think is a decent number 2 running back. Not phenomenal, but, at least average to a little above average. And I'll take that. But I'm going to take the Vikings here because I feel like they're the better team. The Vikings are in a better spot to contend, and they need this win. Definitely with the game against Pittsburgh coming up. And the Lions, until they win a game, that's when I'll pick them straight up again. Until then. So that's why I like the Minnesota Vikings here. Straight up with the Detroit Lions +7. The next game, the Miami Dolphins over the New York Giants. I'm going to take the Miami Dolphins here over the New York Giants based on the fact of where this game comes down to me, the 2 quarterbacks. Because both running games have kind of been up and down. Myles Gaskin had a great 2-touchdown game, primarily from the Wildcat. Both quarterbacks have been shown that they can have bad turnover games, but they can both be effective. If they don't turn it over, they definitely can manage the game well. And, the receiving cores, you have, decent talent, young talent up and down the board. You have and hopefully for the Dolphins, they get Devontae Parker back. He's, been out on the IR for the last few weeks, so that could change. You have, tight ends who are respectable and solid, Gesicki and Ingram. 2 coaches that are kind of, fighting for their jobs. Brian Flores is in a much better position. He's running a 4-game winning streak to where Joe Judge basically has a formula of, like, the week of 3s. Every 3 weeks, he'll find a way to win a game. He might only win 1 game out of every 3 weeks, but at least he finds a way to win a game that nobody expects him to win. And also, again, kudos to him, though. He did get 4 turnovers on the Philadelphia Eagles, 3 interceptions by Jalen Hurts. And the Giants won back-to-back games against the Eagles for the first time since the 07-08 season. I'm going to take the Dolphins here because I have trust in Tua. I have trust in Tua making more respectable and confident decisions compared to Daniel Jones. Like, who I think is going to win, who's going to cause more turnovers and more problems is Daniel Jones and the Giants. Tua's been playing pretty efficient and consistent football. He's really only in his, 2.5 starts. I think he's only thrown 1 interception, and he is only the second quarterback in Dolphins history, or the first quarterback in Dolphins history to have 80% completion percentage in back-to-back games. The Dolphins had a phenomenal special teams touchdown, which really set the tone for the game. Jalen Waddle had 90 yards and a touchdown. And I like where the Dolphins are going. The Giants, I just feel like they got very fortunate with the turnovers, but the offense was sputtering, and I thought Freddie Kitchens was supposed to fix that. He didn't. And if really Jalen Reagor turns around and catches the football, or Jalen Reagor holds on to 1 football, the Eagles win the game, and the Giants fall to a point of no return. And I think, at the end of the day, I'll take Tua and his team overall in terms of consistency compared to Daniel Jones and the Giants, who seem very fortunate and lucky to get wins every week. So that's why I like the Miami Dolphins here, -2.5, and the Miami Dolphins straight up, and also Miami's home. That's the other reason why. The next game, the Philadelphia Eagles over the New York Jets. I'm taking the Philadelphia Eagles here because I do not expect Jalen Hurts to have another 3-turnover game. And every time the Jets win a game, usually the very next week they get embarrassed or blown out. The Eagles, I remember the last time they played, I believe they beat them, or they won the last couple meetings against the Jets in pretty decisive fashion. Zach Wilson isn't 100%. They probably want to have Michael Carter, their lead running back there against the Eagles' defensive front, which has been pretty consistent. And I just feel like, again, like the Giants, they know the Eagles, and those games usually always turn out to be awkward and messy. This one, I just feel like it's the Jets, and just putting your confidence in the Jets 2 weeks in a row to play anyone somewhat good is very tough to ask. And I feel like the Eagles, they're ticked off and they're motivated, knowing that they may have lost the division, but they're still in the wildcard race, and they're not out of that race by any means. And I'll take Jalen Hurts to outplay Zach Wilson in this second-year, first-year pro matchup. If the Jets win somehow, and the Eagles have lost back-to-back road games in the same stadium, I think for the Eagles at that point, that'll be time to hit the panic button, and it'll be time to question everything about the Eagles' future, including Jalen Hurts, as their number 1 starting quarterback if they lose to the Jets. Should be an interesting game. I just feel like, again, the Jets, after they beat the Titans, they got blown up by the Pats. After they beat the Bengals, They got smacked around by the Colts. After they beat the Texans, they'll get probably smacked around again. I just feel like the Jets get that nice confidence building or a nice happy win, and they go to the next week and just lay a huge brick, and it just really frustrates all the Jet fans. I was close to taking the Jets +7, and I would not be surprised if the Jets covered this game, just of how awkward and young both these quarterbacks are. But at the end of the day, the Eagles' defense has just way too much defensive talent. I feel like the Eagles' defense will be getting after Zach Wilson a good way. And Zach Wilson's not 100%. He's still dealing with a knee issue that made him miss the last 4 games. And I think guys are going to bother him against the Eagles' defense, which has a lot of great athletes, then get pressure on him and have him move in the pocket instead of being able to be a statue. So that's like the Philadelphia Eagles here, -7, and the Philadelphia Eagles straight up. The next game, the Indianapolis Colts over the Houston Texans. I'm taking the Indianapolis Colts here. The Houston Texans are a very bad football team. They just let go of Philip Lindsay. There's really nothing positive I could say about the Texans. I made my comment on Ross Blaylock earlier. I think the Colts, they understand what position they're in. They're not out of the playoff race by any means, but they have one of the easier schedules left. I think the Colts hang on and win this game by a pretty decisive fashion. I think Jonathan Taylor gets back on track against the Texans' defense. They're dealing with secondary issues with Justin Reed having been sat for disciplinary reasons. I'm not really sold on the Texans with Tyrod. I feel like the Colts should be able to exploit the Texans secondary. The Jets definitely did, especially that big hitch and go route by Braxton Berrios that set the Jets up for the game-clinching field goal. And also, I just watched them what they did last time. I know Tyrod will be better than what Davis Mills, but they still lost by 20-plus points, even a few weeks ago in Indy. So, I think this game could be interesting because, again, I feel like Tyrod does bring an added dimension. But I think at the end of the day, the Colts they're better, they're more angry, they're more motivated, and they just have more talent around them that I don't think the Texans can match at this point. So that's all like the Indianapolis Colts here, -7, and the Indianapolis Colts straight up. The next game, the Las Vegas Raiders over the Washington football team. I am taking the Las Vegas Raiders here based off the better quarterback. Both these teams to me are very similar. Decent running games. Receiving cores are centered on tight ends. I know Washington has Terry McLaurin, and that's better. Terry McLaurin, Deshaun Jackson. Deep threats that, Terry I think is a better pure receiver than Deshaun is. Tight end centric. Logan Thomas hopefully will be back from Washington. And, of course, hopefully with Darren Waller's IT strand, hopefully he's okay. He can get back soon for the Raiders. It's also just going to come down to this stat for me as well with the Washington and the Raiders. The key stat for Derek Carr in order for them to win football games. I believe Derek Carr will have 300-plus yards passing. When Derek Carr has 300-plus yards passing, the Raiders are 5-0 this year. When he doesn't, they're 1-5. I think that is going to be the difference. I think the Raiders' defensive front should be able to get after the Washington offensive line. They're missing Sam Kosey right now. He'll be out tonight against the Seahawks, and he'll likely be out against the Raiders next weekend. And there's just a part of me going, I feel like the Raiders, they gained a lot of confidence. If it comes down to a kicking matchup, Daniel Carlson, another great 4 field goals, including a new career long of 56. They really had no doubt from 65. And I just look at the Raiders and go, I think Taylor Heinicke, maybe after this weekend, after he beats the Seahawks in a tough, gritty battle, I just don't know how much longer Taylor Heinicke can play this well, because I don't believe in Taylor Heinicke to be the long-term option for the Washington football team moving forward. If he can play well, then, the Washington football team has a chance. But I feel like with the 2.5, it was too easy. Like, if you get it to a tie game, a field goal wins it. I think the Raiders just hang on long enough. I think they move Derek Carr outplays Heinicke by making a few runs and a few throws Heinicke can't. And Heinicke makes 1 or 2 big mistakes that change the momentum of the game for the Raiders to end it all for good. Should be a great game. An underrated football game this game is next week. And I think a lot more people should be watching and are excited for it because it's a huge playoff implication for both conferences. Somebody has to win, somebody has to lose. Can't wait to see it. So that's like the Las Vegas Raiders here, -2.5, and the Las Vegas Raiders straight up. The next game, the Los Angeles Rams over the Jacksonville Jaguars. This is one to where everybody knows. The LA Rams got smacked around by the Packers yesterday. And here's a key stat. The Rams are 7-0. They are 5 or 6-0 against all bad teams that have losing records or 1 win or fewer. Against the winning teams, they are 1-4. The only game they have won was against the Bucks back in Week 3. But you could argue now with everything how it's shaping up for the Rams. I think if Tampa Bay came back into LA where the Super Bowl is being held, I think they beat the Rams in that rematch. Stafford is the first QB since Matt Schaub to have 3 straight games of pick 6. It's the first time in his career that he's had 3 straight pick 6s. Great fun example here. Aaron Rodgers throughout his 15-plus year career has only had 3 pick 6s throughout his entire career. Matt Stafford's done it for 3 straight games. But I'm going to take the Rams here because I just feel like, again, they are not nearly as good a team. Sean McVay usually typically tends to beat up on these lower rookie coaches, even though it is Urban Meyer, who's done a lot in college. But from watching Trevor Lawrence, I really have to ask anybody out here, this is a genuine question. Is Trevor Lawrence any good at all? Because only having been able to throw 1 touchdown since Halloween has been dreadful. He has looked lost. He keeps sailing on wide receivers. I know the team isn't great. But I gotta tell you, like, if you're the Jags, Mac Jones, better. Justin Fields, better. Even Zach Wilson. I take Zach Wilson right now over Trevor Lawrence because I can look at the Titans game. And I saw Zach Wilson carry a team, even with all the fluky stuff and all the COVID and injury stuff that happened during that week. I saw him play a better game than I've seen Trevor Lawrence play. Trevor Lawrence looks uninspired. He looks weak. He looks pathetic. And the Jags really are going to have to question themselves going into next year if Urban Meyer is really the guy that can lead this team moving forward. Because his development and his confidence and what I've seen out of him playing, it's not looking great for a lot of big free agents. They're really going to have to build for their draft for at least another 1 to 2 years. That's how bad I think that Jags team is. But Trevor Lawrence is not helping his case at all. He is a certified bum right now. And if I'm Jacksonville, I'm really questioning what did we get out of. Because even if Mac Jones was there, I think Mac Jones, even in Jacksonville's system, plays better than what Trevor Lawrence is playing right now. Or at least he doesn't turn it over as often. So, but my little diatribe with the Jags is over. I feel like I'm going to take the Jags plus 13.5 because I feel like with the Jags, they're going to hang around with this Rams game by some odd reason through a Stafford turnover, a fumble, or just something that keeps them hanging in the game long enough to cover that 13.5 point spread. Again, I'm not, looking forward to this pick because I know the Rams usually against the really weak competition in the league, they usually kick the tar and snot out of them. So I can definitely acknowledge that could be possible. But I'm going to take the Jags here plus 13.5 because I just do not see it happening. The Rams cover, just of how their confidence is, and just seeing how the Jags they've been more competitive, and I wouldn't be surprised, just like with the Lions, that they hang on and hold on to a near 14-point spread. So that's like the Los Angeles Rams here straight up with the Jacksonville Jaguars plus 13.5. The next game, the Baltimore Ravens over the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm taking the Ravens here because the Steelers are just banged up. They're not looking great. Ben looks old. Lamar's trying to get his first win against Big Ben Roethlisberger ever. I think he's got the much better team and the confidence moving forward. And I just feel like with the Steelers, what you saw on yesterday afternoon was the end of an era for Pittsburgh Steelers fans because I feel like they are not going to be the same for a very long time after this year until they find another quarterback, whether that's Aaron Rodgers, whether that's a draft pick, whether that's somebody, Teddy Bridgewater coming from Denver. They're going to need to find a new quarterback because Ben is not the answer. And look, Lamar did not play well either. He was the first quarterback since Andy Dalton to win a game with 4 interceptions. It was a new career high for him. He was really off and just made some horrendous throws. That first interception, I'm not going to blame him for it. That was off a tip. But the other 3 were just bad. And even though the John Johnson one was a better play maybe than a great pass-up break attempt. But I think, again, the Ravens have exercised a lot of demons through this year. They've been in every game imaginable, from dominating wins to 66-yard field goals to overtime games to decisive losses to everything in between. And also, I just feel like, again, Lamar understands what this moment is for Pittsburgh. He's never beaten the Pittsburgh starters straight up. He missed the last game last year in Pittsburgh due to COVID, so hopefully he's back. I think the Ravens put up another hard, gritty defensive game. It's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be a score that we're going to remember forever greatly. But in this kind of old school game, I'm going to go with the healthier team, the better quarterback, and the better defense. And that to me right now is the Baltimore Ravens. Should be a great game, but we'll see. So that's why I like the Pittsburgh Steelers here +3, but the Baltimore Ravens straight up. The next game, the San Francisco 49ers over the Seattle Seahawks. I am taking the San Francisco 49ers here to win this football game because I just do not trust Russell Wilson and that Seattle team as a whole across the board. I think that the 49ers, even though they might not have Deebo Samuel, Elijah Mitchell is running well, even though they may not have Dre Greenlaw, they may not have Fred Warner, and they lost one of their corners. They're banged up a good amount. But I just feel like after what happened back in week 4 or week 5 right before Russ got hurt, the Seahawks won that road game 28-21. They played an efficient game. And I know, look, Russ could be getting some confidence back. And if they win tonight, they're going to be kind of back in the playoff race a bit. So maybe he can stack 2 wins together, especially against the Niners team that is banged up. But at the end of the day, I just feel like the Niners are going to run the ball down the Seahawks defensive line. And I think Jimmy makes some timely throws to Juwan Jennings, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, Sheffield. And I feel like the Niners just overall physically dominate with a pounding, running, dedicated system. Elijah Mitchell, another great 100+ yard game. And I just can't trust the Seahawks either. Like, the Seahawks home record's awful. They've lost several big home games. The only home game I believe they won was against Jacksonville. So they only have one home win this year against arguably one of the top 4 worst teams in the league. And I think the Niners, knowing the confidence they have, knowing that they've gone to Seattle at least once or twice and beaten the Seahawks, I think they win this game in a nail-biting, close, tough, physical game. It's only 2.5 points, and I'll take it. So that's all I like the San Francisco 49ers here, -2.5, and the San Francisco 49ers straight up. The next game, the Kansas City Chiefs over the Denver Broncos. This is one to where I'm going to take the Chiefs defense and put it in the faith that they've continued to get better or continue to be consistent with their defense. And I feel like if you're going to give Patrick Mahomes and Teddy Bridgewater both the ball with the weapons they have, I think Mahomes wins this game in a very kind of dominating fashion. The last time they played Denver last year, they blew them out decisively. The game before that, it came down to a very Chiefs Broncos. Well, no. Well, the Chiefs beat the Broncos pretty bad too in Denver last year. And again, I'm going to take Denver +9.5 because I feel like with the Chiefs, they really haven't been able to dominate a lot of big games. Even if I lose by 10 points, the 9.5 cover won't look that bad. I don't think the Chiefs are going to blow out the Broncos because I feel like the Broncos are too disciplined, talented, and consistent in order to not make that many bad errors. But also they're playing in Kansas City, which is one of the toughest, if not the loudest, place to play in the entire league. Mahomes is rested. They should be able to get more talent back. Their defense is playing out lights out, and I just think that Kansas City is here to go on their stretch run after the bye and dominate the rest of the league. And I think they get the win. And Andy Reid has had a phenomenal division record against the AFC West. I think he's only lost less than 10 times throughout all of his years throughout the conference and the division. I think he gets another win in a kind of a great confidence building, real interesting prime time perspective. Because if the Broncos win, they're going to be right in the playoff race, and they could be leading the AFC West by the end of Sunday night. So who knows? But at the end of the day, give me the Chiefs, better quarterback, better coach, more consistent in terms of making big plays when they had to, and just relying on the Chiefs for Mahomes to outplay Bridgewater. But 9.5 is way too many. I think the Broncos cover and hold on in a pretty good way. So that's why I like the Kansas City Chiefs here straight up, but the Denver Broncos +9.5. And finally, in the Monday night game, the New England Patriots over the Buffalo Bills. I'm going with the better coach, the dominating record against Buffalo throughout his time in the AFC East, and Josh Allen's very bad and inconsistent numbers against the Patriots, especially on the road. The first great game that Josh Allen had against the Bills was the home game last year. I don't think he's going to play that well again. And losing Tre'Davious White to an ACL tear for the rest of the year is huge for the Bills in terms of how the Patriots can use their weapons, especially their outside weapons, in order to play a more effective and more dynamic game, which I think Mac Jones will have. I think Mac Jones' consistency outplays Josh Allen's erraticness from his super highs to his super lows. I feel like the Patriots in this spot, they understand that this is a huge game to separate them from the Ravens and the Bills themselves to take the number one, the number one overall seed, if not the Ravens win, but definitely the number 2 seed with a good chance to take the 1 seed by the end of the season. I think it's going to be great. I know Buffalo, look, they have more offensive talent. They're motivated. They want to show that they can consistently put games together. From what I've seen this year, they usually put up about 1 to 2 games max really well, and about a third game, they usually lay an egg. So we'll have to wait and see. But I'm going to take the Patriots. Better coach, more consistent. The Bills handle their business against the Saints. The Pats handle their business against the Titans. This is going to be a legitimate, tough man, consistent fight. And I'm going to take the Patriots based on experience, Josh Allen's poor numbers against Belichick's defense, and the Pats just being the hotter and more consistent team. So that's why I like New England +3, New England straight up. And those are my picks for this week. So like, comment, rate, subscribe. Please check out the NFL YouTube Prognosticators page. There's great people like Keith Bailey, big sports fan talk, Half Moon's Picks, Bridgewater's Finest, Andrew Warren, Geo Knows. Any of those guys and gals make predictions like I do every week. Check their videos out. Also check out the links in my description to their YouTube channels. Watch their channels. And that's it. And also please check out my the Boston Sports Report. He's a great prognosticator. Puts up these great 3-minute videos showing his predictions. He's doing better than I am. So please check him out as well. And that is it. So until next week after my Week 14 picks, this is Matt the Fanatic signing off. Until next time, good luck to all players, coaches, teams, fellow prognosticators, and fantasy players. And until next time, so long.